Welcome to Talk with Kristen with an E, the podcast that's like therapy, but cheaper and way more fun. I'm Kristen, host, storyteller, and occasional overthinker. From making friends to surviving burnout, reminiscing on our younger days, and learning how to adult, we'll chat about all life's lessons and laugh in between. So grab your drink, get comfy, and let's talk it out. Hey everybody, welcome back. Today we are so excited because we have a new friend joining us on the podcast today. Not that she's a new friend to me, but a new friend to all of you because you haven't met her yet. So please welcome Emily. Hi, Emily.
Hello.
Do you want to tell the listeners a little bit about you?
Sure. So my name is Emily, and I am a local business owner. I own a dance studio, and I've done that for about 7 years now. Full years this May.
Okay.
And then recently engaged and getting married this summer. So big life changes on top of all of that.
Do you have the countdown for how many days to the wedding now?
We check in every once in a while. We're trying not to pressure ourselves.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine.
So we haven't checked in.
It's within 2 months, though. So we'll say it's within 2.
Yes.
So that's exciting. I'm excited for you. Today, we are talking about, no surprise, because it's during our friendship series, we're talking about friendship. Now, the part that Emily didn't mention is that we do have a slight age gap between ourselves, just a little, which is kind of what we're talking about because, you know, as we've talked in some of the previous episodes about how making friends as children, it's super easy. It's the kids in your class, the kids in the neighborhood. It's almost always people your age, even when you're a little older, going into college or starting work at entry level. It's still people around your age. Then it gets to a point where you meet people outside that. There's older people, there's younger people. And what would have been weird when you were 12 and somebody was 27 now isn't as weird when you're 22 and they're 35 or whatever it is. So kind of curious to hear what your thoughts are, or we could start with talking about our friendship a little bit.
Yeah.
Do you want to start with that?
Yeah, absolutely. The summer of 21 is when you guys first were at the studio.
Yeah.
I would have been 21 when you first met me.
Oh, wow. And I would have been 37, going on 38.
Yeah.
17 years? Yeah, because you were born in 2000.
Yeah. I was in 99.
Okay, right. Okay,
still.
yes, close enough. So there's 16 years between us. If I had been a teen mom, I would be old enough to be your mom, which is weird. Like, we don't look at it that way.
Or you'd have just been the cool cousin.
Yes, that's what I would have been.
There you go.
Much better. We met in 2021 because my son came to dance for your summer hip hop class at recital. He did such a great job. And I was like, I could do that. So then I joined dance class. And then we kind of became friends outside of that, too, because of shared interests.
Yeah, we kind of knew similar people in town. I love that you like the history of
I'm obsessed with trying to find out the history of the town.
That was how we first started talking.
Yeah, right.
I gave you all my yearbook for you
because I want to know everybody, which is kind of another one of the weird things. Like, everybody in this town is connected. So I have this timeline in my head whenever I meet someone. I'm like, oh, what year did you graduate? And I put them on my timeline. And I know people back from like that graduated in like 1980, whatever, all the way up to, I mean, I guess if you count some of your kids that I know some seniors right now, really. Yeah. So I like to know a little bit of everybody and how they're all connected. Yeah. So I looked at all your yearbooks.
So that's kind of how we started our non-client friendship.
That's right. Yeah. Because that was before we did the 5K together.
Yes.
And then we did.
And that's what led us into talking about things that we were interested in and doing things together. And we both go to the same coffee shop. Yeah. So we started seeing each other every Tuesday morning. Yes. And then you would dance Tuesday evenings.
Mm-hmm. We started spending a lot of time together then. Yeah.
So then one spring break, we did.
Spring break, yes. Our indoor 5K.
Our indoor 5K. Mm-hmm. And then that summer, we did the outdoor 5K.
Which was actually, because you guys were like, you can go farther, right? I'm like, I'll go farther if we go to the Wandering Bean, which is our coffee shop. And we did. So it was great. I don't think we did another one after that. It was just those two, right?
That was it.
Okay.
Yeah.
But then, most recently, there was the book stuff too. You lent me some books.
I lent you some books. We both have a love for strawberry shortcake, so we talk about that all the time.
I see strawberry stuff. I almost did today. We stopped at Hobby Lobby, and they have a whole strawberry kitchen section right now. But then you just had your bridal shower. I'm like, she doesn't need anything else right now. But there are some really cute strawberry things out right now.
I love the spring.
It's so
brings
fun.
all the strawberry stuff.
Yes, we both love strawberry shortcake. We have different strawberry shortcakes, so which is kind of the age gap thing because strawberry shortcake has rebranded herself several times. So I'm the one from the early to mid 80s. Yours was what, 2002, 2003? Is that when she came out?
The wide brim
hat. Yes. And she's come out once or twice more after that too. So we love strawberry shortcake. And then our love for the theater.
Yes. That brought us to our most recent activity that we did together.
Oh my gosh, that was so fun. So the friendship has kind of just morphed into different things because what it started as, like you said, kind of client, customer, dancer, instructor has then kind of blossomed into beautiful friendship. But there is the age gap.
Which, like when we sit and talk, you don't notice.
I don't feel it at all.
No.
And it's interesting because I feel like some of it may be your maturity level too, because I think there are some people, and like age becomes kind of irrelevant after a certain point. It's more where you are in your life and your thoughts and beliefs and values and all that other stuff that I don't think it plays as much into how old you are.
Yes. I found myself at a younger age always sitting at the adult table. I was always with my grandma and her sisters and great aunts and my aunts, and I was just a listener. I would sit and I would listen like family stories, and I always found myself gravitating towards people who brought me that home comfort. Going to school, people always said, you're the teacher's pet. I was always running, filling the water bottles, doing the copy, doing more of the adult style work. Yeah. And then graduating high school, moving into college. So it's a total melting pot of people.
Right.
You have people who are in high school still doing their associate's program, moving to the States to play soccer.
Okay.
And then you have your local high school kids or your local county kids who just, this is close to home, so this is where I'm going. You have your returning to the workforce people.
Oh, that's right.
Because there's such a big...
They've got all the programs, like continuing education programs.
So you have all those people who maybe they're switching careers or they have to get like a new certification.
Right.
And even in those classes, I wasn't sitting with the other 18, 19-year-olds. I was sitting with the 32-year-old guy who just was like, hey, I got to be here for the year.
No, and that was similar for me. I spent a lot of time with my grandma growing up, and I do think part of it is because of the people that you're around, and that's kind of the way you're not necessarily raised, but what you're nurtured around. Like that's the environment you become comfortable with and what you gravitate towards with other people. Now, since we tend to lean more on the older side, have you gotten into like old lady habits?
Yes, I needlepoint.
Do you?
Yes. Cooking, recipes. I like handwrite recipes and I put them in a recipe box. Everybody thinks that's so weird.
No, that's perfect because I collect old recipes.
I remember
and
that.
I've got boxes and boxes. And anytime we are antiquing, sometimes I'll see a really cute recipe box, but if it still has the recipes in it, it's gold.
Yes.
I love old recipes.
Stuff like that. Antiquing is a big one. We'll spend hours in the smallest antique store. Have my old lady.
Yeah. Well, because you want to know like every story about it. Like I'll find something, I'm like, oh my gosh, I wonder who owned this and what the story was behind it. Or if there's anything that has like writing in it. Like I bought one time an old ledger book or something. They'd written down a bunch of different things about, like it was kind of like a diary. And I was like, this is brilliant. I wonder what happened to Henry and Matilda or whoever it was.
You never know the end of the story.
I know. And there's some stuff that it's like, it's almost sad, like somebody's whole life and it was just an estate sale or just given away by the family. But everything has a story.
Yeah.
I love antiquing. Well, I think I found that I've leaned more towards older people, which is funny because you're younger than I am. But I know that as I've gotten older, it's not weird to be friends with old ladies.
People who are just older. And not that, like you were saying, 16 years, that's not like in reality the biggest jump that you could be friends with. But for me personally, I work by myself. I don't have coworkers. So I have parents of the kids that I teach and kids that I teach, which I always just refer to like my students as my kids. Oh, my kids are here, my kids are doing this, and in reality I have no children. I feel this instinct towards them because I'm with them and I watch them grow year to year. I'm even like the younger side of it. I have these girls that are in high school that they will reach out to me. They have problems or they just want to talk to somebody that they know is just going to listen, not necessarily going to fix anything for their high school drama.
Yes.
And then just feeling confident in that relationship of being almost like a role model and showing them more like you can be yourself and that's perfectly okay. And that's one reason I really like your podcast. I'm able to hold that. Like, it's not just me thinking that. It's other people are relating to this. So I can use that knowledge then for my younger friends, be like bringing them along with me in life. Girls, you can do it.
Right. Which is so important because I feel like in some aspects, there's not a lot of that in the world, like what you see on social media and all the fakeness and be this, be that. It is hard, I think, even harder for girls now than when we were growing up about being able to focus on that, be yourself and kind of get through things.
Yeah.
So how do you navigate that teacher to student or mentor to person to friend? Like, how do you navigate those relationships so that, like, how you keep their confidences, but how do you navigate those?
I a lot of times have to remind myself that you can have friends, you can have people that you're close with, and you can have acquaintances.
Yeah.
And that's a big thing for me personally, remembering these, yes, I'm going to call them my friends in conversation, but they're children. I'm an adult, and they're more of an acquaintance, somebody that I know. Kind of thinking of it as a school teacher perspective, there are certain things that if you were to tell a school teacher, the school teacher has to tell an authoritative figure or they have to call your parent. And they know there's a certain line that there's inappropriate things to talk about and there's appropriate things to talk about. And that could be anything from, going on a date with a boy. Like, I don't necessarily want to hear that. I hope you had fun. I hope you're, doing what you're supposed to be doing. Wear your seatbelt in the car.
Yes.
I always tell them when they leave, drive safe. Like, still having that authoritative figure over them.
Right.
Because I am the authority in the room. And kind of knowing that. My very first year teaching was a knockdown, drag out power struggle.
Some of those students were ones that you had just been dancing with.
I had them for years. And then I go into the front of the room and they're supposed to listen to me.
Yeah.
And it was kids that I had babysat and my cousins and family friends and people. And that was the hardest thing as 18 to be like, okay, you're an adult now. You have set the boundary.
Right.
You have to tell them we can talk about certain things when we're stretching or when we have downtime. But once I'm teaching, that's it. That's all we're doing. And I feel like we even have that in our class where the groups start talking and everybody's having their side conversations. And I'm like, okay, guys, let's go. At that point, I'm the younger person in the room.
That's right.
Because I also teach adults.
Yeah. That's interesting. I've noticed sometimes it always becomes more later on, especially because this is my third year dancing and every year it's been different people. We have some of the same students, but then we have new people that come and then next year some of those new people left or stayed. Then we get more new people. The first couple months of class, it's not as jibber jabbery. Like it's just we're all there to learn and it's all new. But it's like as people become more comfortable and more relaxed, then it's more of a social setting than it is the dance part. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. But I have noticed too sometimes it's like poor Miss Emily's just standing at the front and nobody's paying attention. Like, hey girls. And like I said, the teacher's pet parts. And I'm like, well, I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah, it's kind of across the board how all my classes are, even from my little biddies up to my adult class. It's that beginning of the year, everybody's trying to find their ground. Who am I friends with in the class? Who am I going to stand next to? Who am I talking to? She's talking, so I'm listening. I try to set those boundaries early on. Like, we're coming here to work. This is a fun space. This is a safe space. And I want you to be able to talk to me and be relatable, but we're working. You're here for a reason. You're not just getting dropped off for an hour.
That's how some of them treat it. But that's okay. Everybody's going to do their thing. Our friend Mary, who's in my class, she has said that it's like a slumber party. And it is, because we catch up on people's lives and what's going on. But you're right. There is that work aspect. We still have to learn it and know the steps, because when we dance at recital, we're really a reflection of you too, because it's your instruction and how well you have taught the classes to do it.
And I think that helps with my younger kids knowing that we're not best friends.
Yeah.
Like, they are going out there to prove to themselves that they learned something and to put on a show. My friends are the people that come from my studio, my youngers and my olders. I have my friends from high school, but on one hand, I can count who I talk to since we graduated.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of that thing where we grew up, we grew apart, we don't see each other every day. My students I see every week, multiple times a week. So it's just being kind of in their lives a little bit more.
Well, I think that's part of a friendship thing too. It's that proximity piece. Like, you can have friends, like texting friends and people that you keep up with from afar, but there is something to be said about seeing everybody, whether it's daily, weekly, some recurring basis, because you're more in their life and you know what's going on.
I think that has a big thing to do with who I consider to be that close friend, is that proximity. Just like going to school and you see the same kids every day, you sit in the same classroom every day. It's, who do I see at the gym? Who do I see at the grocery store? Yes. And it's not necessarily that those people are friends, but they're familiar.
I see that I always go to the same checkout girls at Walmart, and I start to feel like I know. And I have. There's a girl she was a fantastic cashier at Walmart for a while, and we would go through her line all the time. You kind of get to know people. Now she works at the eye doctor's office. Like, because again, small town life, but and she's pregnant now, and I'm friends with her on Facebook. I'm so excited about her having her second baby. We're not real friends, but friends, like air quote friends. Like, I'm interested in her life and want to keep up with what's going on. So I do think it depends on who you're seeing. Have you transitioned some of your kids when they're your students and that you've become friends with them outside in the real world after they're your students? Do you have any of those continuing relationships?
This group that's leaving this year is really special to me. And I think maybe they will be people that I see outside of the studio. Okay. It kind of works into, okay, we just graduated. Now we're friends on Facebook. Now we're friends on Instagram. We're seeing each other's lives in a different perspective. Because before then, I try not to have any social media contact with my students. Things like that. I still use Remind as how I talk to them, because I can set an age limit on there. And anyone under the age of 13 has to be approved by an adult. Okay. And that 13 to 16 is the same way. I think I have it set to where they have to be double approved because they're underage. Okay. And then pretty much after recital every year, I get, everybody wants to be Miss Emily's friend. Before then, I'm friends with their parents, and I see their lives again through a different perspective, their parental view of their life. I see their photos, their highlights of their sports, of their prom, and then you friend them and you start seeing a different view of places that they hang out, their interests that maybe we didn't talk about in the time that we were friends all these years. Some of the kids that have graduated, they just move on and go away to college or do different things. Honestly, I haven't had that many seniors in my 7 years.
That's true.
Last year was my first big group, and this year I have 6 leave.
Wow.
So I think some of mine from last year, we're kind of getting into that social media friendship where we're commenting on each other's posts, we're liking each other's posts, that perspective of friends.
So what is it that you look for in a friend?
Similar interests.
Okay.
Like, is what would capture my attention first. Like frequenting the same places. Okay, she looks like she could be my friend, and kind of go from there. It would be like my number 1.
Okay. What would your number 2 or number 3 be? Like, if that's your entryway one, because I've talked on the podcast in previous episodes and ones that are still maybe coming up in the friendship series about how I have struggled in my life to get past those shallow friendships. Like I find people that maybe like the same things I do or have something in common, but to get to those where you're having heart to heart conversations and sharing your vulnerabilities, I have a harder time getting to that. So has that something been you've experienced?
Absolutely. That is right on it. I always considered myself to be the optional friend of the friend group. I could be invited, I could not be invited. Even at a really young age, I felt like probably 5th and 6th grade. Probably
Awkward
more
times.
towards 6th grade is when I realized that I had all these friends because we were in school together. And then you would start seeing that's really when Instagram became.
I was trying to do the time in my head of like when social media entered your life.
So I had an iPod in 6th grade, and I think I had Instagram. That would have been 2011.
Yeah, it was around then.
So
that's when I was beauty blogging and using Instagram a lot. All the filters.
Not until I was in 7th grade.
Okay.
I had Instagram, and I started noticing they hang out without me. And not necessarily that's a bad thing, but you start just feeling a little different. I had one best friend growing up. From kindergarten to 7th grade, I had one best friend. We did everything. We went everywhere, sleepovers. Our moms knew each other, things like that. And she was a friend that I made at school, and it wasn't like a because we lived in the same neighborhood. It was just a school friend.
Right.
And then she went on to do other things in junior high, and I went on to do other things in junior high, just friends. But that's where I started making my new friends too, because she had her new friends and I had my new friends.
Yeah.
But it was always me sitting at the lunch table with my friend and their friends. I always felt like I was the outsider of every group. Again, not that it was a bad thing. I was friends with everybody in high school, but I think that's why I leaned more towards my teachers because they were a constant. And at home, I have 3 siblings and my mom and dad and cousins. It's not like I needed to hang out with somebody outside of school because I had other people to hang out with. Even now, I think about some of the friend groups that I'm in, and how I got there is because I knew somebody who was in a friend group. So I would even say that is how I've made most of my friends as an adult, is by having one mutual friend with a group of friends and then kind of learning the other friends. And okay, I could be friends with this person, or these are my kind of people, kind of fitting into that.
Yeah. And it's hard to do that because I've been in similar situations where you're brought into a group and you're like, okay, but you always feel like they're the friends and I'm just kind of here. Or I've done it too where I've known this person and I know this person and then I introduce them and they're friends and I'm like, okay, like I'm still a part of it. And like you said, there's nothing wrong with it. It's just weird to see dynamics. So for a lot of my life, it's been kind of that like, where do I fit? Like you said, where are my people? Like everybody has their people, their tribes, their group, whatever you want to call it. And I'm like, I think I'm a fun person, a good friend. Why is it so hard to get my group? I've mentioned on the podcast before, and I need to share the video on my socials so people can see it. But Brene Brown has this great conversation about the difference between fitting in and belonging. And I never explain it as good as she does. But there's this thing where like fitting in is where you try to make yourself fit or you'll change or you'll do something so that you fit the area you're at. Belonging is when like you're really a part of it and it's a part of you. And that's where like I can fit in anywhere. I'll be whatever you want me to be, which is a problem in itself, but I'll morph to fit whatever is there. But then I'm left feeling empty because I'm not being authentically me. I'm changing something about me to be what I think other people want me to be. And it's not that belonging piece.
That's another thing I would say. I've always had something in common with everybody, or I've found what we have in common.
Yes.
And we kind of build off of that. Why am I pulling all of this material that I'm digging for to make this friendship work? Not that I've ever had a bad experience. I've never had the messy friend breakup. I've never lost anything like that. We've just grown apart, or we have different things. in common with other people that maybe pull us closer to them.
Right.
I still am friends with everybody that I meet, but that's where I have to tell myself, this is an acquaintance. You're not necessarily going to be best friends.
Right.
But life is crazy just like in itself of who's going where and who's going to do this. Meeting people's girlfriends, meeting people's boyfriends, that was always a big thing too. And maybe they had friends. And now, like, me and Chase are getting married and getting to know all of his friends that I went to school with.
Right.
But I never talked to.
Right.
A different friend group, different circle. Like, he had his friend group, I had my friend group, and we went to the same high school. We went to the same school for 13 years. And these were all kids that I knew. So now as an adult going into this relationship, and it's like, wow, we all have something in common. And that's really nice to just kind of go to somebody's house and hang out and talk. It's not like you're trying to make everything happen. That's where the belonging is very important. That relationship should almost be natural.
Well, and because you all kind of have shared memories too. Like, even if you weren't in the same classroom as each other, you were in the same class or similar classes. So you can be like, hey, remember that time in 8th grade when so and so did whatever? And you've kind of got that memory together. So it's almost like a shared culture too, because of everything that you guys had been through back in the day.
And just like learning new things that I like to do. I'm still learning things that I like to do and places I like to go, and meeting somebody who likes to do that too. My cousin is a big person in my life. We're the same age. We grew up 2 hours away from each other, but she's like my family best friend. She's not my best friend. She's my family best friend. And she has friends that I'm friends with now because, hey, we're going to come up and we're going to do this together. Do you want to go with us? Oh, sure. We'll go hang out. And now we've got friends that we went to Alabama with last year. She knows because of me and I know because of her, and building that little group. But they're not friends we see all the time.
Yeah.
But that belonging is there. Hey, we're really good friends. How did this happen?
Well, it's just the shared experiences and the time together. Now, do you find if a friendship that you're trying to work on seems to be too hard, do you keep trying, or do you know when to be like, okay, I'm trying too hard, it's not working, and then you stop? How do you handle situations like that?
I think I am the type of person that will exhaust like, I'm just not devastated when it doesn't happen, but it's like I've drained myself. And that's that, like, almost the people pleasing in me to be like, okay, but we have a good time together. So how could we make it where we're friends?
Doesn't always work, though.
Doesn't always work. And that's okay. Everybody's not going to be your cup of tea. But you tried it, and maybe you learned something from that person.
I think it's important to look at it the other way too, which is something I've kind of done more recently introspectively, is I'm not going to be everyone's cup of tea. You mentioned the people pleasing thing, and it is so hard for me to think somebody doesn't like me or somebody's mad at me, because then I'm all like, what's wrong with me? Why don't they like me? What did I do? And get in my head. When really, and I think it was my friend Sarah who brought this up, you've got to take a step back and be like, but do I want to be friends with them? Maybe it's not about me, or maybe it is. I don't know. But when you try to force something with somebody over and over again, you have to stop and think, why am I doing this?
Yeah.
And that's okay, because not everybody is supposed to be best friends with everybody. There are people out there that you meld with better, and your whole life is a journey. And as you go along, there's different people you meet along the way that may be with you for a stretch of a journey, and that's okay.
Yeah. I definitely have a friend that I have reached out, hey, let's get coffee, let's get dinner, let's over months and months. And it's always, yeah, we'll do it. And we never do it. And it's not that we don't want to, but our schedule is just never aligned. We live in the same town, so you would think it's going to be so easy.
You would, but it's not.
Being an adult is not, after I do homework, we can ride our bikes down and meet over here. It's, well, now I have to do laundry. I have to clean my house. Like, there's other things of being an adult that just sometimes get in the way of being a friend. And it's, again, not necessarily a bad thing, because you have to take care of you and your life. She has to take care of her and her life. And that is where I get to the point where I'm like, okay, I texted her 5 times in 3 months, and it's just not gonna work out. It's okay.
Yeah. And see, going back to the age difference thing, I think that is something that I have found beneficial. I was friends with some older ladies and they were a different place in their life. So they didn't have kids. So that was one thing they didn't have to worry about. Like their schedules, they had work or whatever still and a husband, but they weren't, navigating soccer games and basketball practice.
Yeah.
Their schedules were more open. So it made it easier to schedule them. When you have people who have jobs, families, kids, their own activities, that gets harder because you only have so much time to dedicate and you have to decide where your priorities are. And I think friendship to me is a priority, but I can't put it ahead of my husband and son. I'm sure sometimes they feel like I do. They're like, you're going out again. But it's so important to make that time for you and making friendship a priority if that's something good for your mental, emotional health.
And I think me being like the younger is I don't have kids. And so you want to come to my kid's soccer game? Absolutely. I'll come sit on the side and I'll watch your kid play soccer.
Yeah.
Like, we get to hang out. We get to watch your kid play. Like, that's a big thing. I have been to so many football games, basketball games. I've watched cheerleaders. I watched my dancers. Like, I sit with their parents. And I think that's how I've formed that relationship as well with especially my students who will come support you, do something. But I also have friends who are moms who I will come support you being the mom. I'll help you. I'll load your wagon. I'll help drag it behind you while you're getting your kid dressed.
Oh.
So it kind of, like you were saying, like the schedule is just different.
And sometimes that works out when you're not both busy and in the chaos of whatever season you're in. Being able to be in different seasons, you can be there for someone else and they can be there for you, which is why it's important to have people in different areas and stages. As we're talking about being in different stages of life, how do you navigate different life experiences? Have you had any struggles with people and maybe what was going on in their life was harder for you? Friends that are your age, a lot of them have already been married or not married. How do you navigate when the friends that you are friends with, when their season changes? How do you navigate that?
So that's kind of going back to my friend that I talked about trying to plan something to just see each other. She got married right out of high school.
Oh, wow.
And it was just one of those things like I had to understand her life was changing faster than mine was. We text, social media is a big thing. We see each other's lives, but we just aren't in each other's lives. I still consider her my friend because she knows what's going on, but she might not know the deep nitty gritty stuff. And I've also had some friends and lost some friends over the last couple years of being in and out of a relationship and going to those who are married and saying, I really don't know what I'm doing, to hear their perspective of we're married, but we really don't know what we're doing either. We're all just living and working it out. But I was in a position for a long time of like limbo, almost like being stuck in the middle of a long-term relationship with somebody and being super close to his family and having all those people. And then it didn't work out, so we're moving on with life and losing all of those people. And that's probably the biggest friendship shift I've ever had, even graduating high school.
Well, yeah, because that had gone on for so long in your life and so much of your young adult life and becoming a woman, kind of, that it was very pivotal. And I feel like losing those friendships was really almost like grieving a loved one. Nobody died, to be clear, but I feel like that's kind of the way it would be in any other long friendship where you've had that. And I think that's even people. I'm not divorced, but I imagine that's what some people going through divorce might have too, because you have all these friends that you've built
together
and maybe some you've brought in or they've brought in, but then it's been this thing. And then how do you choose? You can't all be friends with the same people still. I just feel like it's difficult.
I feel like that's where we fall back into that social media friendship where you know what's going on in their lives. They know what's going on in my life, but we're not necessarily seeing each other and speak to each other. But we still run into each other at the grocery store, at the coffee shop. We have those little moments of friendship together, and nothing's wrong. nothing's bad. It's all friendship. It's just a different type of friendship. And like you were saying, it's that grieving of what you had and what could have been, like knowing that they would have been a really good friend to have going through planning my wedding.
Yeah.
Or a really good friend to have just marital questions. Because they have been married for years.
Yeah.
But then you also have to look at, I've gained a whole new set of friends who they'll never replace new friendship with these people. They're all older than me. They're all married. They all have kids, and we don't. They've all been a group for years and feeling like that outsider again. But my biggest thing is not feeling intimidated by the group. They're always welcoming, inviting me to do things with them. Life's always going to change. You're always going to have people in your corner that are older than you, younger than you. Everybody has a different life experience regardless of what you're going through.
And you can learn so much from everybody. But you brought up a point. We've talked about social media friendships. I think of it as observing friendships, like you're observing their life. It's almost like watching a reality TV show. You see what's going on, but you may not actually know what's going on behind the scenes because you feel like, oh, yeah, I saw so-and-so went to this or so-and-so's kid is doing that. But it's just from what you see and what they choose to show, which is a different aspect too.
Yeah.
But it is weird when you run into people like that. Because I've had it too where there's people, and like you said, people kind of grow apart and go different ways. You're not friends for any reason, but you're still like social media friends. And when you see them in real life, it is kind of a weird thing because it's like you know what's going on with them, but you haven't talked in real life in so long. The dynamics of friendship are so crazy. What encouragement would you give listeners to embrace unexpected friendships?
You always have to take a chance because you never know. You're meeting somebody for the first time and you have to be open with yourself and with them. So just kind of waiting. You got to give it time, waiting it out, giving them time to open up, giving yourself time to open up. I texted you today. I'm in your driveway. Like,
I know.
That anxiety. I'm not just going to walk up and knock on her door. I'm not just going to go over to a person and say, I just saw you. Let's be friends. You got to have the icebreaker first, giving it time to see where it goes.
Yeah, I agree with all that. One of the words you said that spoke to me was open. Just be open to meeting new people. Sometimes when you go looking for friends, you may not always find the right ones, but if you're open to meeting people, you may find new friends that way too. Being open to people that are different than you also, because, you know, we've talked about having things in common, but just seeing someone you don't know right off the bat if she has something in common or he or whatever, if they have something in common with you. I think it goes back to the age gap thing too. Like there may be somebody who's 10, 15 years older than you. There may be somebody who's 10, 15 years younger than you, and they may like all the same things you do. And you just have to be open to giving the opportunity of getting to know them, but also being open to let other people get to know you.
I think that's a great way to put it. Like just the openness of relationships, because you could go really far with somebody one way or just completely shut them down within a conversation. So hearing them out, what they have to say, but also hoping they're hearing you out.
Yes.
And if they're not, you can try again.
Well, to not be too judgy too. Just because somebody shares a post or likes something and you don't agree with it doesn't necessarily mean you shouldn't be friends with them. Maybe that gives you an opportunity to talk about something like, hey, why is it that you think this? Can we talk about this? I don't want to get too deep into politics or any of those touchy subjects, but still getting to know why people think what they do or why they do what they do. Being open and honest to hearing their answers and just don't judge them right away.
Having different interests. I look for people with similar interests, but having different interests is what keeps you friends, because you have to be able to do your own thing. You are your own person. You're not the plastic. You're all not the same.
Yes. And it would be boring if we were. You can learn new and different activities with other people too. We have some friends that very much enjoy hiking, like a lot. I'm not an outdoorsy person unless I'm laying out at the pool. So when they first asked me to go hiking with them, I immediately texted back and I was like, guys, this seems like something I would do. No, thank you. I don't know exactly what I said, but that was like the attitude. And then my husband, he's like, yeah, but if you want to be their friends, you sometimes have to do things they want to do, because if there's something you want to do that they don't want to do, you still want them to do it with you. So again, back to the word open, being open to other experiences. Went hiking with them the first time, loved it. I was like, this is fantastic. Got myself some hiking shoes. I'm like, this is great. Let's go hiking all the time. Second time, not as great because we went on a Black Diamond and it was terrible. And I felt like I was going to die climbing a literal mountain, but I survived too. And it was fine. I'll probably go back with them again if they invite me.
Yeah, new experiences. And you are the type of person that can share an experience that maybe they don't have already.
Right.
So everybody has that in them. Everybody has their own interests. They're not always everybody's favorite thing to do, but it keeps you friends to have different interests and something to talk about.
That's kind of how we did it as kids too, right? Maybe you wanted to jump rope at recess and this other girl wanted to swing. So you would go swing with her and then she would come jump rope with you. It's so simple to just try new things and be open to experiences and open to people, regardless of what age they are or what they have going on in their lives.
You never know if you don't try.
Well, Emily, this has been wonderful. I want to thank you so much for coming on. You are invited back anytime.
Thank you.
Do you have any final comments you would like to share with the listeners?
I would like to thank you for having me for your friendship podcast.
All right, we'll talk to you again soon. Thanks for spending time with me on Talk with Kristen with an E, where it's always cheaper than therapy. If you enjoyed today's chat, don't forget to subscribe. And hey, let's keep these conversations going. You can find me on Instagram at Talk with Kristen with an E. Let me know what's on your mind. Until next time, take care of yourself. And remember, life is always better when we talk it out.